Okay, real talk for a second. You've seen photos of it 1,000 times. It's on the back of the $20 bill. Every news channel in the world has it as a backdrop. It's basically the most recognized building on the entire planet. But here's what most people don't know. The White House has been burned to the ground, rebuilt from scratch, secretly expanded underground, and has hosted some of the most wild, bizarre, and flat-out unbelievable moments in all of American history. This isn't just a building, it's a living, breathing piece of America itself. So today, we're going inside, past the velvet ropes and the press briefings, to explore the real story of the White House, from its very first brick to the 24/7 operation it is today. Let's get into it. Before there was even a White House, there was a massive question. Where exactly should the capital of this brand new country be? Back in the 1790s, the founding fathers were going back and forth. New York wanted it, Philadelphia wanted it, the southern states wanted it somewhere further south. It was basically a political tug of war. Then George Washington, the one guy everybody trusted, stepped in and personally picked a spot along the Potomac River, a swampy stretch of land that sat right between the northern and southern states. A compromise. Smart move, George. In 1792, they held a design competition for the president's house, and here's a wild fun fact. Thomas Jefferson actually submitted a design anonymously. He didn't win. The winner was an Irish-born architect named James Hoban, whose design was inspired by a mansion in Dublin, Ireland. So the most American building in the world was partly inspired by an Irish country house. You really can't make this stuff up. Construction started in 1792 and took 8 years. Much of that labor was done by enslaved people, a fact that for a long time wasn't talked about enough. America's most iconic symbols carry complicated histories, and we should know that.
In November of 1800, President John Adams became the very first person to live in the White House, though calling it livable at the time is being generous. The place wasn't even finished. There were no staircases in some areas. Abigail Adams, his wife, famously used the East Room, one of the grandest rooms in the building today, to hang her laundry because it was literally the only room big enough and dry enough to do it. Not exactly the glamorous image we have of the place today. But then things got way worse. Fast forward to 1814. The United States is at war with Britain, the War of 1812. British troops march into Washington, D.C. and set fire to the city. The White House burned, almost completely destroyed. President James Madison had already fled, but First Lady Dolly Madison stayed behind just long enough to save a famous portrait of George Washington before she escaped. That portrait still hangs in the White House today. There's also a story, never fully confirmed but never fully denied, that a sudden thunderstorm helped extinguish the flames and slowed the British advance. Whether it's completely true or not, it feels like something straight out of a movie. James Hoban, the original architect, was brought back to rebuild, and it was during that reconstruction that the building was painted white, possibly to cover the smoke stains from the fire. The name White House started to stick.
Over the next century, the White House went through constant changes. Every few presidents, someone decided something needed to be added, redone, or completely rethought. The iconic columned entrances you see in every photo, the north and south porticos, were added in the 1820s. Now it was really starting to look like the White House we recognize today. Then Theodore Roosevelt made major changes in 1902. He added the West Wing, where the Oval Office and the real day-to-day business of the presidency now happens. He also officially named it the White House in an executive order, making it permanent. Before that, it had been called all kinds of things. The President's House, the President's Palace, the Executive Mansion. Roosevelt just made it simple. But the most dramatic renovation? That happened under Harry Truman from 1948 to 1952. The building was literally falling apart. A piano leg punched through the floor. Structural inspections revealed the whole place was basically held together by plaster and prayers. Truman gutted the entire interior, kept only the outer stone walls, and rebuilt everything from the ground up. He added 2 full basement levels. The White House you walk into today is structurally Truman's White House. And yes, he also added the famous Truman balcony, which people absolutely hated at the time. Critics called it ugly, out of place, and unnecessary. Today, everybody loves it. Funny how that works.
Here's what really makes the White House something beyond just a building. Every major moment in American history has a White House story attached to it. Abraham Lincoln sat inside these walls during the Civil War, signing the Emancipation Proclamation, carrying the weight of a nation tearing itself apart. Franklin Roosevelt led America through both the Great Depression and World War II from the Oval Office. He gave his fireside chats on the radio, speaking directly to millions of anxious Americans when people needed someone to just tell them it was going to be okay. John F. Kennedy sat at his desk during the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, arguably the closest the world has ever come to nuclear war, and found a way to pull back from the edge. Neil Armstrong called the White House from the moon. The moon! Nixon took that phone call right here. The White House has hosted queens, kings, popes, and prime ministers. It's where some of the most important conversations in modern history have taken place, behind closed doors, over long dinners, in the Situation Room. And in 2009, Barack Obama became the first black president to call the White House home, a building that enslaved people helped construct. That moment carried a weight that words can barely capture. Okay, so what is it actually like to live in the White House? Because here's the thing people forget. It's not just an office building. It's someone's home. The White House has 132 rooms, 35 bathrooms, 8 staircases, 3 elevators, a tennis court, a bowling alley, a movie theater, a jogging track, and a putting green. There's a full medical unit, a florist on staff, and chefs available around the clock. Sounds pretty amazing, right? But here's what former presidents and their families often say. It can also feel isolating. You can't just walk out the front door. You can't go grab a coffee. Your kids can't play outside without security watching. Everything you do is documented, watched, and reported on. Michelle Obama once described it as the world's most beautiful prison. Not because it's a bad place, but because the loss of freedom is real and constant. The first family lives on the second and third floors, spaces the public almost never sees. Past presidents have said those floors actually feel surprisingly personal. Family photos on the walls, their own furniture, books, kids' toys on the floor. Because underneath all the history and the gravity of the presidency, it's still just a house with a family trying to live in it. The White House isn't just a building. It never was. It's a record. A physical record of everything America has been, everything it's done, and everything it's still working to become. Every room holds a memory. Every hallway has a story. Every president who's walked through those doors has left something of themselves behind. From John Adams hanging wallpaper in an unfinished mansion, to the moment a son of the civil rights movement stepped into the Oval Office, the White House has been there for all of it. It's been burned, rebuilt, renovated, and reimagined. It's survived wars, crises, scandals, and change. And through all of it, it's still standing. And honestly, that kind of feels like America itself. Thanks for watching. If you learned something new today, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you want more history that's actually interesting. We've got a lot more stories coming your way. We'll see you in the next one.